Jacob, the trickster, had finally returned home after years of exile. But home wasn't exactly welcoming. His brother, Esau, the fierce hunter, had sworn to kill him. Jacob, trembling with fear, prepared for the worst. He sent waves of gifts, hundreds of animals, hoping to appease his furious brother. As he waited, a wave of sadness washed over him. Years had passed. Would Esau even recognize him? Would he remember their childhood games? Suddenly, a dust cloud appeared on the horizon. 400 men on horseback. Horror gripped Jacob. This wasn't a friendly visit. He quickly organized his family, placing his wives and children in a protective order, like soldiers preparing for battle. Anger boiled inside him. Why did this have to be so difficult? But then something unexpected happened. Esau, his face streaked with dust and sweat, ran towards Jacob. He threw his arms around his brother, tears streaming down his face. Jacob was stunned. Surprise, and then overwhelming happiness flooded him. He wept too, relief washing over him like a tidal wave. Esau, surprisingly gentle, embraced his family. But then he noticed the massive herds of animals. A flicker of envy crossed his face. "All this for me?" he grumbled. Jacob, feeling a pang of shame, explained that the gifts were a token of his love and respect. Esau, touched by his brother's humility, accepted the gifts. They spent the rest of the day celebrating, laughter and joy filling the air. It was a day of pure excitement and amusement for the children, who had never seen so many people or so many animals. But the reunion was short-lived. Jacob, fearing for his family's safety, gently declined Esau's offer to travel together. Finally, the brothers parted ways. Esau returned to his home in the mountains, while Jacob continued his journey. He eventually settled in the city of Shechem, where he bought land and built an altar to thank God for his amazing journey. Dinah, Jacob's beautiful daughter, was curious about the world outside their camp. She longed to see the other girls, to play games, to learn their songs. So, she slipped away to visit the nearby town of Shechem. Shechem, the ruler's son, was instantly smitten. He was captivated by her beauty and charm. But his admiration quickly turned to obsession. He tricked Dinah, and then, with a sickening cruelty, he took advantage of her. The news reached Jacob's sons like a bolt of lightning. Anger, a fiery and consuming anger, erupted within them. How could anyone dare to harm their sister? Disgust and shame washed over them. Their sister, their beloved Dinah, had been violated. Fear gripped Jacob. He knew that violence would only bring more violence. But his sons were blinded by rage. Shechem, desperate to make amends, offered to marry Dinah. He promised riches and a place for Jacob's family in the city. But Jacob's sons saw this as a trap. A chilling plan was hatched. They demanded that every man in Shechem be circumcised. This, they knew, would weaken the city. The men of Shechem, eager to welcome Jacob's family, agreed. But this was a ruse. 3 days later, while the men were still recovering from the painful procedure, Simeon and Levi, fueled by a burning desire for revenge, struck. Swords flashed, screams echoed through the streets. The city was plunged into chaos. Horror filled the air as the brothers slaughtered every male. Shechem, the source of their pain, was among the fallen. Jacob, witnessing the carnage, was filled with a mixture of horror and shame. He knew his sons had crossed a line. They had brought dishonor upon their family and ignited a deadly feud. Simeon and Levi, however, were unrepentant. She was treated like a worthless animal, they roared. Jacob, the man who had wrestled with God himself, knew it was time to return to his roots. God had instructed him to go back to Bethel, the place where his journey had truly begun. But first, Jacob needed to cleanse himself and his family. He ordered everyone to get rid of any idols or reminders of their past. Fear gripped some of them, for these idols had been their comfort for so long. But Jacob was determined. They set off, leaving behind the familiar sights and sounds of their old life. As they traveled, a strange thing happened. A hush fell over the nearby towns. No one dared to attack them. It was as if an invisible force, a sense of awe, protected them. Finally, they reached Bethel. Jacob built an altar, a place to thank God for all he had done. He felt a deep sense of peace, a sense of coming home. But joy turned to sorrow when Rachel, his beloved wife, began to have a difficult childbirth. Fear and anticipation filled the air. The midwife tried to comfort her, but Rachel's strength was fading. With her last breath, she named her son Benoni, son of my sorrow. But Jacob, in a moment of hope, renamed him Benjamin, son of my right hand. Rachel died, leaving Jacob heartbroken. He buried her along the roadside, marking her grave with a stone pillar. Sadness, deep and profound, consumed him. Life, however, moved on. Jacob continued his journey, his heart heavy with grief. Years passed. Jacob's father, Isaac, grew old. He had lived a long and fruitful life, but now the time had come for him to say goodbye. Isaac, his eyes dimmed with age, peacefully passed away. Esau and Jacob, despite their past differences, came together to mourn their father. It was a time of mixed emotions. There was sadness, of course, but also a sense of peace. Isaac had lived a full life, blessed by God. Esau, the skilled hunter, had built a life for himself far from his brother, Jacob. He married Canaanite women, built a large family, and amassed a vast fortune in livestock. But life wasn't always easy. Competition for resources was fierce. Esau and his people needed more land, more pasture for their animals. One day, while exploring the rugged hills of Seir, Esau discovered a hidden valley. It was a land of abundance, perfect for his flocks and herds. Excitement surged through him. This was his new home, a place where his people could finally thrive. But peace was short-lived. Rivalries and conflicts arose among the different clans within Esau's family. There were whispers of betrayal, of hidden agendas, and of simmering anger. Fear gripped the land as powerful chieftains emerged, vying for control. Some were wise and just, while others were ruthless and ambitious. Intrigue and danger lurked around every corner. There were tales of daring raids, of cunning alliances, and of bitter feuds. Over time, a series of kings rose and fell, each leaving their mark on the history of Edom. Some were celebrated for their bravery, while others were remembered for their cruelty. But amidst the struggles and the power plays, there were also moments of beauty and wonder. The land of Edom, with its dramatic landscapes and hidden springs, offered breathtaking vistas. Joseph, the youngest son, was a dreamer. Not just any dreamer, but a dreamer of grand visions. He saw himself ruling over his brothers, the sun, the moon, even his own parents. His brothers? Not so impressed. Jealousy gnawed at them like a hungry wolf. "Who does he think he is?" they sneered. "A king." Their words were laced with venom, their laughter cruel. One day, their father, Jacob, sent Joseph on a mission to check on his brothers who were tending the sheep far from home. Joseph, eager to please his father, set off on his journey. But his brothers had other plans. As Joseph approached, a chilling plan was hatched. "Let's kill him," one brother hissed. Reuben, the eldest, was horrified. He couldn't let them kill their brother. "We can't kill him," he cried. "Let's just throw him in this old well. That will teach him a lesson." And so, it was done. Joseph, betrayed by his own flesh and blood, was thrown into the darkness of the well. Fear and despair gripped him as he plummeted into the depths. But then a glimmer of hope. A caravan of merchants, their camels laden with exotic spices, appeared on the horizon. An idea sparked in Judah's mind. "We can sell him," he exclaimed. And so, Joseph, the dreamer, was sold into slavery. He was ripped from his family, his future uncertain, his heart heavy with sadness and betrayal. Jacob, his father, was inconsolable. He mourned the loss of his beloved son, his heart aching with grief. The joy he had felt for his youngest son had turned into a bitter sorrow. Meanwhile, Joseph, a young boy far from home, faced an unknown future. Would he ever see his family again? Would his dreams ever come true? Click here to watch the next part of Joseph's amazing story.